WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego digging. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Got a little feedback. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, ready to get your eye open. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You're going to learn something today because I learned something before I got here. Every generation has its purpose. Whoa, come on now. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. All right. Now, let me get my disclaimer out the way right quick, and then I got some other stuff to do here. Kill the disclaimer, all right.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM, nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
All right. First, a little public service announcement from Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Are you a homeless veteran or in danger of homelessness? Are your utility bills such that if your utilities are about to get cut off, or if they do get cut off, you will be evicted? Then you should contact Delaware Center for Homeless Vets and enroll in the Supportive Services for Veterans Families program. Okay, that will get you back on your feet, get you off the street, get you housed. That's Delaware Center for Homeless Veterans. Supportive Services for Veterans Families Program. That's right. You can get assistance with emergency housing and permanent housing. Call 302-842-2119. If you know someone that is a veteran and facing homelessness, get them in touch with Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Okay? Delaware Center for Homeless Vets, changing veterans' lives all over Delaware. All right. Hey, Brother Steve, what's up? I see you there. Good morning, Sherry. I'm a home girl. That's her. That's indeed. All right. You've heard me say this numerous times. If you don't understand global white supremacy, everything else will confuse you. I might paraphrase there, but that quote comes from Nellie Fuller Jr. Nellie Fuller Jr. has passed away, leaving behind a significant legacy in the fight against racism and white supremacy. Nellie Fuller is considered one of our warrior scholars. Born in 1929, Fuller was a critical thinker, writer, and speaker who dedicated his life to analyzing and addressing systemic racism. He is best known for his book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which provides a framework for Black people and other victims of racism to navigate and counteract white supremacy in their daily lives. Fuller believed that racism is the most destructive social system in human history, affecting all aspects of life. His work emphasized the need for justice and the ideal that as long as racism exists, efforts must be focused on its elimination. He was also a mentor to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, another influential scholar in the study of race and white supremacy. I've read and studied his work, and his insights have profoundly shaped my understanding of systemic racism and how it operates in every aspect of society. His emphasis on counter-racism logic and the need for intentional thought, speech, and action in combating oppression continues to be relevant today. His passing is a great loss, but his teachings and influence will continue to inspire those committed to justice and racial equality. All right, Nellie Foley Jr., Warrior Scholar. Yes, indeed. All right. Moving right along. And speaking of warrior scholars, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Dr. John Henrik Clarke, one of our most important warrior scholars. As a matter of fact, he was actually Malcolm X's tutor, history tutor. Where did he get it? Because he was an autodidact. I mean, he was self-educated. Okay? His brother was a hell of a speaker. Where did he get it? Well, Dr. Clarke said he studied at the Schomburg Institute, now known as the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. It was 151 years ago. Arthur Alfonso Schomburg was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, to a Black mother and white father who abandoned the household. He arrived in New York 17 years later. He was called the Sherlock Holmes of Negro history because of his ability to locate extremely rare or presumed lost material written by people of African descent. When Schomburg was a child, his peers frequently teased him about having no history. White classmates told him that Black people have never accomplished anything of note and never would. The young Schomburg asked his teacher where he might find books on Black history and was told there's no such thing. As an extended rebuttal to his teacher, he dedicated his entire life to collecting everything he could and people of African descent wrote. The Data Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, located at 105th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem, has over 150,000 volumes of Black history and nearly 5 million artifacts, photographs, magazines, and manuscripts from throughout the world, and has become the mecca for anyone needing to document or research Black history. Thank you, Dr. Schomburg. Yes, indeed. All right. Moving right along. Because our history did not start with slavery, slavery interrupted our history. Brother Lawrence, see you there, Brother Alan Lawrence. Tune in today, 4 o'clock on WHGE 95.3 FM for the Weekend Review with Alan Lawrence. You don't want to miss it. All right, moving right along. Like I say, our history did not start with slavery. Slavery interrupted our history. Yeah. One of the most significant figures in our history was Queen Tai, or pronounced Taya. Queen Taya was a Kemetic queen, thought to be of Nubian descent. She lived between 1398 and 1338 BC and was the daughter of Yuya and Tuyu. Although she was not of royal blood, her family was well respected within Kemet. And she married Amenhotep III, a noble Kemetic king. She was the stepmother of Nefertiti, mother of Akhenaten, and grandmother of Tutankhamun. Okay. Akhenaten, and for those of you that may not have known, is really considered the progenitor of monotheism. And her grandson, Tutankhamun, is better known as King Tut. Queen Taya governed the 18th dynasty beside her husband as a wise advisor and powerful ruler. She was not only one of Africa's greatest queens, but also one of history's most powerful women. This can be attributed to her significant influence in Kemet during her husband and son's reign. During her husband's reign, she was referred to as the Great Royal Wife. Queen Taya was a prominent figure in public arena and wielded great power in administering state affairs. She was responsible for communicating with foreign rulers, and the Amama letters are a testament to the admiration and respect bestowed upon her by foreign leaders. Amenhotep III generally loved and honored his wife and regarded her as a partner in his life. He devoted a number of shrines in her honor and constructed a temple dedicated to her in Nubia in the city of Sendigia. It was here she was worshipped as a form of the goddess Hathor Tefnut. Hathor has been identified by Queen Hatshepsut at her temple of Deir el-Bahri as Hathor, the Lady of Punt, associating her with Ta-Nejer. Evidence of the worship of Hathor Neftut has been found at the site of the Meroitic Kingdom in present-day Sudan. When her son Amenhotep IV ascended to the throne, King Taya was given the title of the king's mother. Her son later changed his name to Akhenaten, causing contention within Kemet with his controversial religious reforms. Despite his deviation from traditional practices, Queen Taya seemed to love and support her son, demonstrating her steadfastness. More than that, they really tried to turn her against her son because of his monotheism. Okay, and because of his centering Atan, or Ra, the sun, with his spiritual practice. The mighty Queen Tai ruled with the same authority as a man and exercised her power in equal measure with the great kings of the ancient world. Her death marked the end of the 18th dynasty's illustrious reign, and her legacy established her as one of Africa's greatest women rulers. Yeah, Queen Tai. And if you see statues of her, there is no doubt that this is a black woman. Hey, brother boy. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Where's the music? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right, Brother Haru, I see you there, Brother Jardea. All right, moving right along. Oh, wait a minute. I got things a little mixed up here, okay. All right. A democracy is not safe if the people tolerate the growth of private power to a point where it becomes stronger than the democratic state itself. That in its essence is fascism. Ownership by government, by an individual, by a group, or by any other controlling private power. It's a quote from FDR. You know, it's something how poor people are viewed by the rich and by right-wing people. It's just mind-blowing to me. Okay, I mentioned this before. I remember asking a conservative, "Why do you hate poor people?" Yes. Why? Because they're poor and they chose to be poor, which is the dumbest ish anyone ever said. And this goes so far that a lot of states have basically outlawed homelessness. A lot of places, a lot of municipalities, okay, are shutting down shelters. Okay, a lot of municipalities send the cops in to stop people from feeding homeless people. And this is nothing new. You know, during the days of the Black Power movement, when the Black Panthers would feed their community, the cops actually would break into their storehouses and urinate on the food to keep them from feeding people. How cold-hearted do you have to be? And then those that have this sick mindset, okay, look at people that do this as either, communist leaning or the big awful word, socialism. And you're just radical. As from Sister Tracy, what radicalized you? Nothing. Not wanting people to starve and suffer is not radical. It's normal. Stop saying it's radical to be base level empathetic and start asking what made people into sadists. Call out sick behavior, because I'm tired of people thinking kindness shouldn't be the default. That's just common sense. That's just being human. To look at someone suffering and say, wow, I ought to do something about it, and I will if I can. Yeah. So you don't realize what the plan is here. First, let me tell you something. I don't think people fully understand how much a billion actually is. If your salary was $100,000 with no tax, it would take you 10 years to become a millionaire. But it would take 10,000 years to reach $1 billion. Hey, Tupac said, it's unethical for one person to be hoarding this much money when others can't eat. And then you turn right around and vote against your own interests. Because remember, you could have had affordable housing, a $25,000 new house credit, and no more price gouging. Instead, you idiots obviously voted for Colonel Sanders because you opted for $18 eggs. And this is how silly you are. And I look at what's going on All right, let me get this other thing here. All right, wait a minute, I got it. All right, let me take a quick musical break. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right, Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. Okay, what's going on here? Well, let me tell you something. The plan is to give more tax breaks, more tax cuts to the rich, to the wealthy. And this has to be paid for. And how are they going to pay for it? They're going to pay for it by cutting social service programs. Do you know if you make under $400,000, your tax rate is higher than someone who makes over $400,000? So you make $60,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, they're going to tax you more so they can give tax breaks to those that make over $400,000 a year. Reverse Robin Hood. Now, some people who made the foolish mistake of choosing a 34 felon convicted of 34 felons, the Orange Disaster. Oh yeah, some of them, they know they made a mistake now. So it's method, because that's what she was, voting against her own interests, Southern white woman, living in poverty. Now she on the internet crying about they cut her food stamps and her Medicare. I can't believe they did that. And you're watching your food prices go up. Okay? Because the plan is to have two classes of people: the wealthy and the enslaved. You think the Orange Disaster, a narcissistic, useful fool who is being used by the controllers around him? Think he give a damn about you? Now, these people who turned their back on black people, who black people told you what Project 2025 was about, what they planned to do, not just to black people, because they definitely coming after black people, but to poor people, period. To women whom they hate. You know, your body, my choice. They said that. Now they want us to come together. I saw a Hispanic dude that said he would do everything he could. He would vote for a jackass before he would vote for Kamala Harris. A black woman infinitely more qualified to sit in the White House. And don't get it mixed. I was not a big fan of Kamala Harris. I was not a big fan of voting for the lesser of two evils. Okay? But damn, when the evil is so extreme, now they want us to get together. We all need to get together and protest. That's what we need to do. And you need to know your protest rights. They're putting this out there. You don't need a permit to protest in response to breaking news, and you don't need a permit to march in the streets or along sidewalks, as long as you're not obstructing traffic or access to buildings. Know your protest rights. They want you to know this. When you are lawfully present in public space, you have the right to photograph anything in plain view, including buildings and the police. The auditors go out and prove this all the time. If you believe your rights have been violated, when you can write down everything you remember, get contact information for witnesses, and take photographs of any injuries, I don't know if that's going to help you a hell of a lot, because the Orange Disaster Administration has closed down the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. If you get stopped by police, ask if you're free to go. If they say yes, calmly walk away. If you get arrested, you have a right to ask why. Otherwise, say you wish to remain silent and ask for a lawyer immediately. Don't sign, say, or agree to anything without a lawyer present. And this is all good advice. But I got some advice for black people. Don't take your ass out there and get involved in these protests. Don't do it. Because you voted your protest against the orange disaster. And they want you on the front line now. These white women that voted against their own interests, these Hispanics that voted against their own interests, these Arabics and Muslims who voted against their own interests, who gave you the side eye for voting for Kamala Harris, these stay on the couch people who did not vote for their interests at all. Don't get out there and protest with these people, because that's what they want. That's what the orange disaster, the right-wing white supremacy wants, so they can declare martial law. And who you think, when they declare martial law, where you think they're going to put the National Guard? Yeah. And like Sister Sherry said, many people who voted for the orange disaster forget that white women are minorities as well. They were so focused on black, brown people, Asians, and everyone else who isn't a white male. Wait a minute. Who isn't a white male, that white women are now finding out what's really happening. Because you really don't understand how they operate. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and affirmative action benefited white women more than anybody. Okay? The thing is, they wanted to get rid of it. Now, how do you get rid of something when you're a white supremacist in government that's benefiting white women, brown women, Asian? You put a black face on it. The same people benefiting from those same programs, when you put a black face on it, they get bent out of shape and vote against it, thinking they're voting against black people. They're voting against their own goddamn interests. Too dumb to understand that. Where am I? Too damn dumb to understand that. And that's why I'm telling you, do not get out here on the front line. Because remember, Trump promised to give police immunity when they murder and abuse black people. You want to keep on? All right? Remember, we're resilient people. We've been here before. We know how to deal with this. We can handle this. Remember the Great Depression? You didn't see no black people jumping off no goddamn buildings. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Advocacy Education Station. Yeah. Speaking of education, of course, as you know, they do not want any black history taught. But like I said, we're resilient people. Groups of black scholars have gotten together and formed Hillman Talk on TikTok. And what they're doing is they're teaching black history, they're teaching law, they're teaching science, they're teaching business practices, they're teaching how to handle taxes. And like I said, they're teaching a black history that is so relevant to us. Because if you don't know your history, if you don't know the tree, you won't know the root. And they're making sure, all right? Like I said, they hate DEI. Put a black face on it to get rid of it. This fool, Darren J. Beatty, I think he's one of co-president Elon Musk, Doge people, Department of Government Efficiency, a department that doesn't actually exist because Congress has to establish government departments. Mm-hmm. And what this fool said was, racist bastard, competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Okay, where the hell are these competent white men? Oh, he said, unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. Like I said, where are these competent white men? Because Trump's whole cabinet is a bunch of below mediocre morons. You know, it's something. Do you know why the Egyptian civilization lasted so long? Kemet lasted so long? Because Kemet had a very highly skilled bureaucracy that made sure things got done. When Ramses the Great said, build a city over there, right there, the bureaucracy ginned up and took all the necessary steps to make that a successful endeavor. More than that, they made sure that the government ran smoothly, that the government was prepared for any incident that might come up. Fast forward to fascist America, as Trump, in his determination, in his cronies' 2025 determination, is basically to destroy the bureaucracy. So you got all these incompetent fools in place. Okay? They have formed this DEI watch list. America's bureaucrats most abusing diversity, equity, and inclusion. The DEI watch list is focused on exposing the unelected career staff, driving radical diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within the federal government. The real power often lies behind the scenes bureaucrats. That's right. Because they make sure things happen. They are the oil that runs the engine. The real power often lies with behind the scenes bureaucrats who push divisive. Divisive to who? DEI agendas that undermine merit, fairness, and accountability. Oh, yeah, they want a meritocracy. Yet they put in place a bunch of incompetents who couldn't get hired to shovel-ish. The merit system was actually in place. Okay? They claim DEI agendas undermine merit, fairness, and accountability by uncovering these hidden influencers and their failures. We aim to restore integrity and common sense to our government. A bunch of liars and thieves gonna restore integrity and common sense, and they ain't got a bit of goddamn sense. Join us in rejecting the politicalization of federal agencies and standing up for policies that reflect real American values. What they mean is white male values. They have no morals, they have no values. And I tell you something, the right-wing group funded by Project 2025, this DEI watch list, is targeting mostly black federal workers. In the escalation of the political rights crusade against diversity, equity, and inclusion, a recently published website entitled "The DEI Watch List" targets mostly black federal workers in an apparent attempt to intimidate and advance the Trump administration's aim to root out all employees it deems as DEI hires. Excuse me. The website, created by the conservative nonprofit American Accountability Foundation, but they got a way of naming stuff, don't they? Accountability. These people had no sense of accountability. And they actually call their nonprofit the American Accountability Foundation. They ought to be, their nonprofit status should be snatched just on that lie. And they published the so-called dossiers of more than 60 former and current federal workers. See, this is why you got Elon Musk going in federal treasury, getting names and this, that, and the other, and locking out federal workers and what have you. Oh yeah, that needs to be protested. Don't y'all do it. All right? Let them white women that voted for that son of a bitch get out there and protest this crap. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Let them do it. Now, Target, who ended their DEI initiatives. I've been looking for it in the press and online, what have you, but Target allegedly is apologizing. You go in Target stores. I seen a brother, he went in this Target store and boy, he took all kind of stuff off the shelf and man, maybe I will buy this and maybe I'll get this and this, that, and the other. And he got up to the cashier after walking around Target's half-empty store. Let him bring that stuff up and said, you know what? Y'all don't like DEI, never mind. Yeah. Because Target was famously one of the first companies, corporations, retail, to roll back their DEI initiatives. Now, Target shareholders are suing the company for failing to predict a backlash to its diversity program. The case stems from a major consumer backlash against Target's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative and feeds into a wider debate about diversity policies. Target displayed pro-LGBT items in 2023 and removed any reference to Target's toys being for boys or girls. This led to conservative backlash and consumer boycott. But that boycott came mostly from white conservatives, whom a lot of people don't seem to realize are not the economic backbone. Okay? They are not a real consumer class. Because half of them are poor, or more than half of them are poor, depending on the government teeth. Target is now facing a class action lawsuit from investors who lost money on its shares. This follows a major drop in Target's share price after the boycott. Mostly black people. And the complaint was filed in a Florida court on January 31st by the City of Riviera Beach Police Pension Fund, which is seeking others to join the class action suit. And that's something. The complaint accuses Target CEO Brian Cornell of failing to properly disclose the risk of consumer boycotts stemming from the company's DEI programs or their counseling of their DEI programs. All right. Target ended its DEI programs January 24th, as well as separate initiative to support black-owned businesses that had launched in 2020 after the George Floyd protests. It's one of many corporations abandoned DEI policies amid a conservative backlash. Yeah. In their pockets. That's the only way. That's the way to hurt them. Hit them in the pockets. Learn from our history. So now, like I said, you know, they're gonna apologize. So black people will come back to the store. Let me tell you something. You slap my face and then apologize, my face still stings. You keep your goddamn apology. Like Sister Sherry said, apology not accepted. WHGE 95.3. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, let me tell you something. For those of you that get out there and, well, you know, DEI is just not fair. It's just DEI and DEI. You know, they take terms like they did with CRT and what was the other thing? Of course, affirmative action. But now a DEI, and they co-opt these terms and make them dog whistles. Because now, to most conservative white people, DEI means ninja. You know what I mean? Well, no, I'm just for, you know, meritocracy and fair play. And that's why I'm against DEI. You're full of it. Because if you oppose DEI, you should have to use the full phrase instead of the letters. Be brave. and say, I oppose diversity, equity, and inclusion. Bonus points if you admit which part of that you don't like. Okay, making it an acronym transforms it into a thought-terminating cliche. From now on, be proud of your opinions. Be specific. Let everyone know it's diversity that you don't like. Let everyone know it's equity you don't like. Let everyone know you don't like the idea of being inclusive. See, because those of us that have real common sense have sense enough to know when you say DEI, you don't like DEI, what you really mean is you don't like black people. Fuck you. Yeah, I went off the air for a second. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Yeah. See, the thing is, a lot of y'all silly racists can't see past your own hatred. They have sense enough to know that you're playing checker with people that play chess. Case in point. The Proud Boys went and vandalized the church. Yeah. Now they're going to seek vengeance against a black church after losing the naming rights for failing to pay the $2.8 million judgment that was against them. The church sued their silly ass. The naming rights of the Proud Boys now belong to a historically black church in Washington, D.C. that the far-right extremist group attacked following the 2020 presidential election. According to the New York Times, Judge Tanya M. Jones-Boissier, the group's trademark name now belongs to the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church, which means that the Proud Boys could no longer use their organization's name, logo, or insignia without the church's permission. How you like that? The ruling comes after the Proud Boys failed to pay the $2.8 million default judgment the church was awarded in June of 2023 in its civil suit against the group, alleging that the attack amounted to acts of terror. It was intended to intimidate the church and silence its support for racial justice. When the Proud Boys didn't turn over the money, attorneys for the church argued that the matter could begin to be satisfied if the church took control of the trademark name. Excuse me. Which would prevent the group from selling, transferring, disposing of, or licensing any merchandise using the words Proud Boys or any of the organization's symbols. Former Proud Boy leader Enrique Charrio, who President Trump recently pardoned from serving a 22-year sentence for plotting and directing the January 6th insurrection, condemned Boissier's decision. Their acts are a betrayal of justice. I hold in contempt any motions, judgment, or orders issued against me. Oh yeah, you can hold that in contempt if you want to. Terrio added in his lengthy quote, though the corrupt judicial system unjustly confined me 2 weeks ago, my faith in Jesus Christ has set me free. Jeez Louise. This racist, evil bastard run around talking about faith in Jesus Christ, and you wonder why a lot of us are not Christians. I pray for their sake they do not suffer the same fate as Pharaoh. However, let it be known, retribution is inedible. That's a threat. Yeah, that's a threat. I tell you what, the Metropolitan AME Church has no plans to back down. This is our time to stand up, to be very clear to the Proud Boys and their ilk that we came here fighting, that we have never ever capitulated to violent whims of white supremacist groups. That's what Reverend William H. Lamar IV told CBS Money Watch. If they thought we was going to be afraid, they were wrong. There are many people with us and who stand with us. Tario, and you know what? You ever seen this Tario dude? He's Hispanic. I think he's Puerto Rican. Okay, he's dark. Yeah, he's dark. He's black dude. The hell happened? Mentally ill. Yeah. During a pro-Trump rally in December of 2020, a violent clash between Trump supporters and counter-protesters broke out, and the group jumped the fence surrounding the church, then tore down and burned the Black Lives Matter flag the church erected following the death of George Floyd. They also burned down banners at Asbury United Methodist Church, another historically black church. Ontario pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanors, criminal charges of property destruction and attempted possession of a high-capacity magazine, and was sentenced to more than 5 months in jail. And he should still be in jail, would still be in jail if it weren't for the orange disaster. And yet, you know, it's something that these people want to claim, that people like the Proud Boys and what's that other white supremacist dude? I can't remember his name. But we started civilization. What is that boy's name? Can't think of his name. But he was on Roland Martin claiming that white people founded Egypt. Now, I made this quote a couple of weeks ago. All right? But I think I need to revisit that quote. Professor James Smalls was asked, why do you say Europeans never created civilization? He responded, show me one. Show me a European civilization. Rome is not a civilization. Greece is not a civilization. You don't know a day in the history of Greece where there wasn't a war. You don't know a day in the history of Rome and there wasn't a war. Those are not civilizations. Meanwhile, Egypt goes 3,000 years without a war. You don't know a day in the history of Greece or Rome where there wasn't a war. Those are not civilizations. Those are death cults, war culture. They're not building anything. They're stealing from other people, borrowing from other people, and still carrying on this anti-human, anti-nature behavior of murdering, stealing to conquer and appropriate something that belonged to someone else that you could have gotten by just shaking their hand and making a deal and having some integrity. Professor James Smalls teaches us this. Oh, and like he said, they're still doing the same thing. And we're on the continent of Africa, where they want the resources of Africa but don't want to pay for it. And guess what's happening? Africa cutting your ass off. Yeah. Ghana, they kicked out the Americans, closed their bases. Trump and Elon Musk, I gotta think of a name for that fool. I like what this one sister calls him, elongated muskrat. They have decided to involve themselves in South Africa's land reform. And of course, the whites of South Africa are crying loud, long and hard about how the government of South Africa is stealing their land. Ain't that a blip? You stole it, and then when people take it back, they're the thieves. This is how the mind of a psychopath works. So South Africa, Trump said that, we're going to cut off aid to South Africa. South Africa said, the hell with you. And as a matter of fact, here's your ambassador. Get out. You got to go. Mali, Burkina Faso, pay attention. Pay attention. Kicking them out. Yeah, and they should. And well, they should. Talk about love for Africa. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Yes, indeed. Time flies when you're having fun. Always enjoy. Oh, something I got to get to here. Right here. I remember when I was in the Air Force, and the Air Force sent me to the Middle East. Shouldn't have sent me. Got my ass in a lot of damn trouble. Yeah, I almost got jammed up. Yeah. And one of the things that I found out was that the Arab slave trade is still going on. Now, I found it out in 83. Here we are in 2025, and it's still going on. The Arab slave trade is much older and lasted a hell of a lot longer than the Atlantic slave trade. Slave selling of Africans by Arabs is openly happening in Libya in 2025. It showed a woman from Ethiopia who is now being sold as a slave in Libya. This also applies to those that were behind her in the photo. Libya today, right now, is a thriving slave market where Africans are being sold for as low as $300. Okay? And remember Hillary Clinton's response to Muammar Gaddafi's death? It was laughter. She was Secretary of State under Barack Obama. See, that's why I had some understanding for those that wouldn't vote at all when it came to Kamala Harris. I have some understanding of that. Because when Barack Obama was running for president, black people got excited. And then we realized, damn, here we are getting excited about a black man running the white man's store. Okay? Under Gaddafi, there was no electricity bill in Libya. Electricity was free to all citizens. There were no interest rates on loans. Banks in Libya are state-owned, and loans given to all citizens are at zero interest by law. A home is considered a human right in Libya. America, learn something. Because you think a home is a privilege. Gaddafi vowed that his parents would not get a house until everyone in Libya had a home. All newlyweds in Libya received a $60,000 donation from the government to buy their first apartment. Education and medical treatments were free in Libya. Before Gaddafi, only 25% of Libyans were literate. After Gaddafi, the figure was around 80%. Libyans taking up farming as a career receive farmland, a farming house, equipment, seeds, livestock that kickstart their farms. All free. If Libyans could not find the education or medical facilities they needed in Libya, the government funded them to go abroad for it. And you know, Gaddafi, he has some advice for those he sent abroad for education, specifically the males. He said, remember, you cannot build a Libyan empire between the legs of a European. In Gaddafi's Libya, if a Libyan bought a car, the government subsidized 50% of the price. The price of petrol in Libya is 14 cents a gallon, or a liter. Libya had no external debt, and its reserves amounted to $150 billion. If a Libyan is unable to find employment after graduation, the state would pay the average salary of the profession as if he or she were employed until employment is found. A portion of Libyan oil sales is credited directly to the bank accounts of all Libyan citizens. A mother who gave birth to a child under Gaddafi received $5,000 as child benefit up front. Gaddafi carried out the world's largest irrigation project, known as the Great Man-Made River Project, to make water readily available throughout the desert country. If this is called dictatorship, I wonder what type of leadership Democrats and Republicans have. All right? Upon Gaddafi's assassination, on October 20, 2011, Libya reported how national reserves amounting to $150 billion, which is, of course, now frozen. Their country is war-torn. It's one of those S-hole countries now with an open slave trade. And you can point directly to America under the Obama administration for that crap and for those Africans being on the slave trade or having an open slave market. Wake up, y'all. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs, third eye optometrist, Pan-Africanist. raised a Pan-Africanist. Ran into one of those deny, hate, Mother Africa, indigenous to Mississippi is denied. We are not African brainwashed people. Just this week, someone that I've known for a minute. I don't really deal with them. I don't really debate with them. And if you're one of them, and you are my friend list, unfriend me now. Because I'm not going to argue with you about my mother. Deny Mother Africa, deny your existence. And that fool, what is his name? Waka Flocka. It's a rapper or something. A fool, a damn idiot. No matter how brown your skin, the blackness of Africa runs through your veins. And the melanin of the universe runs through your very soul. The ancestors cried out to me to lay my curses upon a fool's head. And all that feed into these fallacies. Mother Africa's children, the Ethiopian, the Cushite, the Nubian, colonized the world. We're indigenous to the planet. But our blackness, our root is Africa. I recognize this foolishness. It's that Moorish science temple crap that fed into the Caucasoid lies and is now ashamed of their own mother. And want to be anything but black and a child of Africa. Why do these fools deny Mother Africa? I'll tell you why. Now, I know the Moors conquered southern Europe, but they were there for 700 years, and when they came back, they had no affection for their mother or her children. And them fools was floating on boats. They sure as hell was. It was the traitorous Moors that helped the Caucasoid degenerate and enslave the children of Africa. I lay my curse upon the deniers of Mother Africa. May the rays of Amun-Ra burn you as the sun cleanses the land. I welcome the rays of Ra because I was burnt in God's own furnace. My blackness is a blessing and an honor. What happened to you?
I want you to heat yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Thank you, Malcolm. All right. Coming to the close of the show here. Hope you learned something, because I learned something before I got here. Hope you woke up. If you weren't already, the likelihood if you listen to it overnight, you already awoke. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This has been Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Global African supremacy. Pay attention. We're going to be riding around in African electric cars. Yeah. Global African supremacy, because the world was a better place when the African ruled. Peace.